post version. So basically, you guys can see that we have two applications or two modules, if I like to say, two modules. One is called the default module, which is called app. Then we create another one called driver. Okay. So basically, the difference is between these two are like this one is built using the old XML based one, but in the driver application we have get rid of the traditional XML based one, but we have moved into a more modern version, which is the Compose version. So we have created the Compose UI. So looking into the architecture wise, it's going to be quite same. The coding style, it's the only thing that we're going to be changing. Okay, so it's up to you guys to adapt to the latest version. But as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of problems, a lot of projects which are still on the older version, which is the old XML based configuration. That's kind of be for a while, but from my perspective, a lot of things going to be merged or moved into the Compose based one, since it is really easy to do. Okay, so we talked about composables. Okay, how we can create a composable, how we can preview it, how we can create smaller functions that will make things easier for us to have more, rather than me running it in the application itself, where we can create the UIs, clearly and much more easily. The preview, if you guys can remember, we can preview the component itself really easily. So we don't have to run it every time in our emulator, but while you are designing the application, it's make a lot of easy in order for us to develop the component itself. It is the same as what we have seen in the XML based one, but everything is done in code. So yeah, we talked about layouts in a nutshell. We haven't got in really in depth with regarding the layouts, but it's quite simple when you get hold on to that. That is the column layout that we have used to show two greeting components and one single button. Then we talked about how we can handle the events, such as on a button, when you click on it, what should happen. Then we introduce a locket message saying, okay, this has happened. So this is quite easy, and when we are talking about the application itself, there is nothing much, nothing fancy that's going on within this application, unless you have a requirement to put something on the locket. Everything is like quite simple thing. We'll move on to a next section, which is we will be more invested in within this section is about testing. Okay, so the testing, how many of you guys know about testing? At least have a little bit idea. Okay, I have written a test, or I know about the basics behind the testing. How many of you guys know about it? Raise your hand, please. Nobody? Let me get participant list. Okay. Right. Anyone who is interested in testing? I mean, I would like to do testing. And okay, I have written some unit test. Good. Anyone else here have who for trying to be not into full development, but there might be students who are really willing to do the what do you call the QA testing parts. So anyone who in here would like to go into testing? Nobody? I would like to do testing. I mean, at least my passion is about QA engineering, that kind of thing. Okay. Seems not. Okay, so I think Dinuka has written a unit test. Dinuka, what do you understand by unit test? What sort of problems that we are trying to solve by writing unit test? Can you explain your experience? Hello, Dinuka, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Yeah. What do you understand by unit test, and how do you proceed with unit test? What sort of things that you do in a unit test? Hello.
Shall I use single, sir?
Yeah, go ahead. No issues. No issues. We are not born English.
එක ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එකට එක ඉන්පුට්ස් වලදී ඒ අවුට්පුට් එක අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන අවුට්පුට් එක එනවද කියලා.
Okay. Yeah. So that is a type of testing. Yes. What Dinuka is mentioning there is when we give some certain inputs, whether we are getting the right output. Yes, that is one way of doing testing. Yes, that is true. Basically, in a unit test, yes, we'll be giving some inputs and we'll trying to get the outputs as whether it is expected or not only the expected behavior. If there is an error behavior, we need to check that as well. Okay, so for example, let's say we have a simple function that that would do like take two numbers and add it together, and it will print that. Okay, that is the basic function. It's just a simple addition. So what we can do is when we are doing an addition, yes, if I give 2 plus 2 and 2 and 3 as inputs, obviously the answer should be 5. Then we can check, okay, if I give 2 and 3 as input, whether I get 5 as an output. If I give 2 plus 6, okay, 2 plus 6, if the answer is 8, that is also expected behavior, but we can try to test the other way around. 2 plus 6, whether it is returning us negative 8. Okay, how it's gonna look like if we give positive numbers, how it affect the negative numbers. What happens if we give decimal points? What is the error that we're gonna get? So there are a lot of aspects that we need to think about just adding two numbers. Yes, it is just seems to be a simple thing to do, but believe me, for the most of the code that I have written, the code itself, it is going to be like 5 or 6 lines. Then again, the test case, it's going to drag around to 100 lines. So 5 or 6 test cases. So it's going to be dragging around like plenty of line of code. So we have only a little bit logic we are left around, but the testing is really, really huge. So that is a good sign that that you're doing a great programming. Okay, as a developer or as a QA engineer, writing code is only one aspect of your coding capabilities or what you are doing. Writing test cases, and making the documentation. So those are also included within your job role, or maybe within what you are doing. So always make sure that you guys do that as well. Otherwise, we can't consider ourselves as a good programmer. So we are doing the whole package, or we are doing the job 100%. So we have to make sure we are doing that. The the things that we ought to do is we are doing it correctly. Okay, so let me give a brief introduction on testing. We will cover testing in a much more wider manner later on. But for now, if you guys can remember, we have within our Android application, even though it is of the XML way or Compose way, we have two things in here. So we have Android test and test. Okay, make sure the Android test and test is there. So the test, it is we can consider as simple unit test. Okay, so what's the difference between Android test and unit test? So any test, any unit test that we are going to be doing, it should be written in a way that it should not depend on anything specific for Android. Okay, it's going to be completely independent from the ecosystem that is running. It should be completely work without Android. Even though we are developing Android application, the application unit test should be executable in a way that it not depend on Android itself. Okay, so most of the time in unit test, we will be testing some things like a logic or something. A class should perform a business use case. That's kind of things we will put into unit test, as Dinuka mentioned, like what happens if we give one certain set of inputs and what is the expected output. Okay, if we give the same input and output in a different application, that should be the same. That is what we call the business logic. Okay, for example, the addition part that I mentioned, there's going to be a function which take two numbers, add it and give it back as the results. So it is not depending on any Android specific stuff. So anything that can be written, that can be tested without proper dependency of the framework or the application itself, we will put it under unit test. Okay, but there are certain things we will be needing Android itself to test. For example, let's say we want to test a fragment. Okay, whether the fragment is working as expected, the UI is rendering as expected, or we can go from one UI to the next one, whether that is also working. That kind of a flow, which heavily involves Android itself, we cannot have the we cannot run that certain amount of test without Android, or we need certain part of Android ecosystem, like we need an activity, we need a fragment, or sometimes we need a button. That kind of things, usually we go with Android test. So in normal way, we call these things as, sometimes we have things like integration test, and there are some things like end-to-end test. Okay, so anything specific to Android, which is we are heavily depending on with Android ecosystem, that kind of tests are going to be inside the Android test. Anything that is not related to Android itself, we can test it out without any dependency on the underlying framework, Android, iOS, whatever. As long as these business logics can be executed and tested outside of the framework, we will put it in unit test. We'll see how we can utilize both and what sort of things we should be careful when you are writing unit test. Sorry. So first thing first, let's try to go into the example unit test that we are currently having and see what's still there. So we have a function addition underscore is correct, and what we normally do when we want to write a unit test, there are things called assets. Okay, so assets is the way of make suring that the expected behavior is what we want. So asset equal in the sense there are two things in this asset equal function. What is the expected and what is the actual? Okay, so any business logic that we're going to be writing, we should say, okay, this is the expected outcome and these are the actual inputs. So these can be considered as input and output. So we are expecting 4, yes, but the actual inputs that we are going with is 2 plus 2. That means if 2 plus 2 equals 4, this test pass. Okay, to annotate a test, we have this special annotation called at test. If we only have this at test annotation on top of this method, then and only that this will be executed as a test. Remember that. So we need this function to be annotated at test. That's it. The name of the function, it can be something. It is something that should be able to read and understand. The method name itself should define what we are about to test. So in here, it says addition underscore is correct. So you guys can see the normally functioning name, we don't use underscores. We use camel cases, but in this scenario, it's perfectly okay to have underscore between these lines, because as I mentioned earlier, these test case, the method name itself should describe what we are about to do. And a lot of time, the method names tend to be very long. Okay, so it's perfectly okay to have underscore to separate 2 words or separate few lines, but make sure the method itself is explaining what we are about to test. Okay, so I have also seen this trick, okay, where you can put this sign where you can have multi-line if you prefer, but I'm not sure 100% whether it is working correctly. But anyhow, you are perfectly okay to use underscore within the name. Okay. And one other thing, when we are writing unit test, make sure the class name itself have test or tests, the plural, the test or test at the end. Most of the frameworks that you will be running on the test, we can run unit test parallelly. Okay. So when we are running these tests, whether these tests, all these tests should be executed or not, is determined by the class name itself. So most of the time, either we have test on the starting of the class name or at the end of the class name, test or tests. Okay, singular plural. Make sure you have that. Otherwise, most of the testing frameworks, they won't pick up this as a test. Okay, so if you guys can remember these as it equal, these things are coming from most popular Java testing library called JUnit. Okay, so JUnit is one of the most popular libraries out there, which help us to validate or write unit tests. Okay, so this test annotation itself is coming from JUnit itself. Okay, so you guys can run test and execute and check. So let's see how we can run a test case. There is simply nothing that you should do. You have this play button on the right left hand side of your IDE. So if I run this one, it will only execute this unit test. But if you have multiple unit tests within the class, I can run all the tests in here. Okay, just for now, I will run the run this test. So make sure it is executed. Test results, as you guys can see. Okay, all tests passed, so we don't have to worry about anything as long as these are correct. But let me test a wrong scenario in here. Okay, so I will say addition is wrong. Okay, let me do something very stupid, like let me say 2 by 9 is equal to be 4. So we are calculating a number which we call 2 plus 9, but we'll be asserting that we will be sorry, we'll be asserting that means if 2 plus 9 equal to 4 in another universe or something like that, this test should be passing. But in reality, where we live, this is a wrong input, and the expected output is wrong. So we will run it. Okay, you guys can see that addition is wrong. The test results came back, and you expected to have 4, but it was 11. Yeah, 2 plus 9, it is equal to 11. They are saying expected is this, but actually you got 11, so one test got failed. So this is one way that we can say, okay, this is going to be a failed test. But in order to pass this, we can have some other ways. Okay, assert not equals. Okay, that means we are saying, okay, we are saying that after these two numbers, 2 plus 9 is not equal to 4. So this is a valid test case. Okay, this is a valid scenario. So we can say addition is correct. Okay, the name is, as I mentioned, does not correct correct for addition is, let's say, let's have it wrong as well. Addition is wrong. Okay, so as at equal, this should be not working. So let me run it again, and this time it should pass. Okay, so we have a case where we say, okay, this is equal and this should not be equal. Okay, for some reason, if this is equal, then the basic mathematics that we are doing is totally wrong. So we have two test cases. We can run them all by clicking on the class itself, and you guys can see the test, and we have like 2 tests, and all of them got passed. Okay, so this is like the basic setup of test, but in reality, you won't be getting something like that. As at equal 2 plus 2 is this. So we'll be looking into more realistic ones that we will be covering up. Okay, so yeah, let's go into our project, and we will write some unit tests for our application. Okay, so I have this basic application. If you guys can remember, it's having two composable components, but let me change this, and we will do what we'll do is we will have 2 inputs from the user, and we try to concatenate those two, at least do an addition, and we will try to get the answers. Okay, so we'll be like doing a simple calculator kind of thing, but don't expect to be this in the Play Store or something like that. It's not going to be that big. Okay, so we won't be needing these greetings. Yeah, we'll just remove that for now. And what we will do is we need where to get our inputs. Okay, so we will be using input text input. text input. Text button, where did I go? Sorry, let me check. I totally forgot how we can do that. Let's go to our favorite place. Let me get that's my browser. Yep. So we'll go Android compose text input. Okay, that's if you can't remember, the best place is to get help from here. So we have something called text field. Oh, okay, that's the one. So we will get a simple text field right in here, and we will have that simple text field. The value is going to be text. On change, what should happen? The text is a mutable state with text field value. Okay, and output is something like this. We can have placeholders. We'll be having a lot of other stuff like types, whether we can go to different stuff. So I'll just grab a simple text, and I'll have this outline text field from material design itself. Okay, so the text, it is it should be in here. So mutable state of let me command shift, sorry. Let me import these things. Import is unresolved text field value. Let's import that as well. Unresolved, remember. Okay, that's fine. We need to have a text in here. Okay, we need to find outline text field. I think outline text field is not there. Outline text field is from material, right? Text field, yes. Let's go with simple text field then. Text field. Possible function. No. Okay, let's do like this. Simple text field to have better understanding. We will create as a separate one. Create composable function. Okay, let's see what we are missing. Probably we have not imported this into our application. Let's see, simple text field, what we have missed on here. Jetpack compose. Let me minimize this. We go to imports. Oops. File size, I think it should come material. Do I have Angular material in here? We need to check that first. Should be there. Compose material 3, yes, it is there. Why the text field is not coming? Let me check the material design itself. Text field. This is the simple text. Field material. Android. Compose. What we need, outline text field. Okay, this is the basic one. And we have that. The text field should be there. Why it is not populating, that is the problem. Remove. And let me remove these things as well to make it more clear. Composable text field. Let me try to import that. Import. Material text. Material 3. So they have text. Okay. Do we have input? No. So the text is there, text button is there. So I have to check Android material, Android compose, actually Jetpack compose, text field material 3. Okay. I can't use text field. There might be changes. So this is material. Can't I use Jetpack compose in material 3? That shouldn't be an issue. Let's go and find. Except all. Check the dependency. You have to add the library material 3 to. Also check the import statement. We did that as well. It was the grade file was not updated. Material 3 version. I think we have seen the material 3 version. Okay, Alpha is here. There is Alpha 5. And we will import all just in case whether that should be. No, seems to be an issue with the latest version. Okay, they are saying it is not available on the old version. Let's say we have Alpha 2. Let me go to Alpha 5 and see whether it is working. It's that should what is the latest version? 1.1 Alpha 5. Let me sync now. So there you go. It's totally normal. We don't expect everything to work as it is. So you know what's changing. You know what to be expect. This is how really code works. Okay, you don't expect everything to be out of the box and working perfectly for you. Okay, it's downloading the latest versions. Okay, think almost done. Building, done. Okay. Oh no, it's just turned to dark mode. Kotlin migration, not interested now. Okay, think everything is downloaded. Let's go and see. Text field is do I have text field input in here? Presumably not. Let's see, text. There you go. Text field is there now. So basically, it was like the older version that I was using did not have that. So we have to import the latest version. That's fine. Okay, what's going on? Overall decision I'm using the use all those function to match. Let's see how what we need to change in here. Value is text. The new text is type parameter. We'll just go with something like text field. Okay, and it should say the text field value, what's the value it's going to be asking, and what should happen when value change. Okay, value change, I will be living up to this, and the text field that we are interested in, let me go back to the Jetpack Compose library that we had. It is the text that we are trying to put in. So that's gonna be text. Okay. It's the text field. Unresolved risks. Remember, it's the mutable one. Let me go back. Jetpack Compose material3 text field. Okay, there is material3. Let's see what's have changed in here. I think a lot of things have changed. I was used to work with material2. 3 is a little bit changed, so that is good for me as well, so I can learn. We have text field. No. We have text, system elevation, typography. No, nothing in here. So we will go to another section, material text field, outline text field. Okay. Let's see an example. Okay, this is like the material design view. We are not interested in that actually. So we are interested in the text field value, and there you go. So we have we can use this remember savable. That's the one we are missing. Okay, so we will have this variable. Okay, text range, remember by savable. Let me import this. Okay, import this one as well, and we will import everything. Okay, and the next thing is outline text field. Okay, outline text field. Probably I need to import this one as well. Yes, imported. Opt for experimental API example. Okay, probably they are complaining that since this is by the time we are running, this is still in experimental space. That's why it is complaining there might be changes here and there. So don't worry about that for now. So we will have outline text field for us, outline, let's say number, outline number text field, which will be using the same name. Okay, and for let's first of all we will go and put it in here. Outline check, outline text field. We'll run and see whether we are good with our things. So I will be going with the drive app and reach. What's missing? Execution. Okay, this is a classic. Nice to have. Okay. So I'll stop this. Okay, and I'll run it again. So yeah, so there is a bunch of issues coming in. Now what we did was we simply we just we just updated the material, but you guys can see that basically if you're we are changing this driver currently compiled against 32. Recommend update the project to the new compiled version at least for the 33, for example, 33. So when we do a change like this, if you are going with the material, we have done the material. This version we have updated, so they are complaining. Okay, compiled version at least compiled SDK version make it 23. Otherwise, it won't work. That kind of things already going to be there. So make sure you guys look into those things while you are compiling. That's simply will be easy for you guys to spot on. Okay, I think it is indexing. All right, let's hit the play button and see whether we have any issues. Okay, still going on. That is totally okay. Okay, don't worry about that. We will get one by one. And yeah, it says some class are duplicates, and you know, it is saying execution failed, check for duplicate classes. So this is completely okay at some point. That's because when we are changing these dependencies, okay, so when we are changing these dependencies, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes these libraries that we are using are not compatible completely with the latest version of the other libraries. Okay, so in a situation, this is a common situation that we come across. That means when I'm trying to go with the other version and it is not allowing me to do so. So they are saying, okay, we have a duplicate class. So duplicate class comes in. So for example, so yeah, so a duplicate class comes in a situation where I change the version, but in the same version as well as the, let's say for activity compose version, they have the same class name for some reason. So one thing that we can do is we can say, okay, ignore that thing, use one of the classes which are coming from these libraries, or we can make sure these everything are aligned and compatible. Now, since I've changed the versions in here, maybe by changing another dependency, probably the compose one, activity compose. Yes, changing to 6 or something, something latest might solve this. Okay, I'm not guaranteeing that. Okay, this should be the case. There are Kotlin lifecycle events that we can do. We need to do. I mean, a lot of changes are there, but within in this application, we can't guarantee that by simply changing the dependencies, it will work. That's why we are sticking to the versions which are coming most of the time, unless we need to do an upgrade. Of course, every time we are changing something, make sure we are changing these things as well. So let's see how we can do a debugging. Okay, that's as I mentioned, this is good that we come across this. How do we debug? How to make sure these kind of errors, if you are not getting error, then you are very lucky. But in another way, you are very unlucky, because you won't get the learning curve out of this. So it's saying, okay, the Kotlin collection, JDK collection is found in the Kotlin STB 1.8, as well as Kotlin, yes, JDK version, and so on and so forth. So a lot of duplicates happens here and there. That might be, this is the case where a lot of these things are not working as expected. Probably by increasing the Kotlin version, they might go away, but we will do a quick fix by how to fix these dependency resolutions. Of course, there is this documentation pointing out. We will go there and see what is the recommendation by simply adding uh, 4 lines. Where is this opening? I think in the browser. Sure. Open Sesame. Yes, this. 2 windows. We can just simply do Google search. Dependency resolution errors. Okay, there is the link. Let's see whether we can go there. Yes, fixed dependencies resolution error. Okay, select navigate classes from the menu bar. In the top search panel, include non-project items. Type the name of the appears in the build error, which include the class. So fixing these duplicates errors. So there is this like long version of how we can do that, and what are the things that we can do. But what we can do is, so simply what we can do is either we go and manually change each and every one of these things, or we can just simply add a dependency section, and we will get the answer. So most probably workspace failure occurred while Android rating, duplicate class and not found. We'll just do a simple search on this. Let's see whether we are lucky on that. Duplicate class in Kotlin in Java. Okay, there are a few answers. There you go, something similar to us. And the plugin is there. So simply for just changing the Gradle version to 1.8, invalidate cache and build. and plugin version to 1.8. It was working. All right, solved by Kotlin class path, build.gradle. Okay, we will be updating the plugin versions 1.8. Okay, so probably I think we will have to change this. Okay, for compose stable version of material 3, use this one, and use 1.7. So you guys can see what we have done. So for stable versions, we should use 1.1.0, but we change it to 1.1. Okay, the point in here we have changed. So that will break, that will not work with the Kotlin version that we are having. So what we have to do is we have to change build.gradle and try to rebuild again. So basically, the working answer for me would be to have the Android version to 1.8. Let's see whether it is working or not. Okay, Android Kotlin version, where I can find that. So there is few things that we can do. We can either go with this table 1.3. Okay, let's go to Gradle, build a Gradle. Android Kotlin Android version. There you go. So we have 1.7 in here, but they are recommending try to go with 1.8 then 0. Let's see whether do we have an update? No. If you click on it and you have an idea on if you click on this bulb icon, it shows something. But for now, we'll blindly change the version. As mentioned, it's 0. Okay, let's sync up now and see whether we are getting rid of the dependencies. So this is good. What happened? So when we are changing here and there, changing the dependencies, make sure those are compatible with one another. Otherwise, it won't work like what we are experiencing right now. Let's see whether it's gonna fix few problems or whether it's gonna get worse. Okay. So make sure when if you guys look at the answers itself, they do not specify okay where to. Sometimes they say okay, just simple sections saying plugin do this and do that. So we need to know where these files are there. That's why we when we are working within the application itself, we first identify the build.gradle files and each of their purpose and where they can be located. Otherwise, the simple code snippet, it's gonna say do an update to this. That's it. So the answers that we are seeing in here assumes we know what we are doing. I mean at least where to find these files and where to update those things. So make sure you guys go through these each and every application application file and know there at least where to find that and a mind map of files what to be updated. Okay, so most of the time when we do something like this, we need to clean and build. So then sync, invalidate cache and build. Most of the time what I do is I will go here in the build menu and I will definitely clean the project. Okay, so everything will be like everything will be wiped clean from the build directory, and I will create a fresh one. So I will go to build again and I'll say rebuild project. Okay, let's see. Gradle is doing its job. importing. Gradle sync in progress. Still, it's taking time. Okay, while Gradle is doing its job, we'll try to get something useful done. Project update recommendation. Okay, not instruction now. Okay, so now they're compiled. They are saying that the Compose plugin that we need to do is compatible with the version that we are having. We are having 1.0 alpha. The composer required 1.70. So it is not going to be working. So we know we have to find that. Yes, here we have the Kotlin Compose version. Let's see what is the latest version that we can go with. Let's Kotlin Compose version. Compose version 1.80. Compatibility map. If you guys can remember, we went here very recently. Okay, we need to use 1.0 without alpha. Okay, alpha release is no longer support. Sync it again. Project update recommended. Android Gradle plugin, not interested at this moment. We're trying to run the application. So these kind of migrations, it's not happening every day because a lot of us is focusing on the development side, but time to time these things can happen. Okay, I'm not saying it's not going to happen by any chance or anything like that. Sometimes it might happen. Okay, I think I have a text field, but it is yeah, it is working, but I'm not sure the way we expected. Let's go and see whether we have. Oh yeah, I have put it not within the column itself. That's why it is showing like that. Run it again. There you go. So we have a label, and we can click on it. Nothing happens as of now. There is literally nothing going on. So yeah, at least we know how to debug our code. If you get into a error, how you're gonna resolve that. At least I'm not covering everything. It's impossible. Most of the time, these kind of things always follow the instructions which are given in the logcat or the error log. If you can't find the correct answer, just copy a section of the error itself, Google it, you'll find the Stack Overflow question most probably, and follow. It's not always it's gonna be like, okay, for us, we can consider ourselves lucky. The first two solutions really worked. So but most of the time you can you will find the right answer there. Okay, all right, we have the label in here. Awesome. And what we can do is so we have the text around here. We have value which is stored among the text field, mutable one, and the text field example value. So for starters, I will have text of 0, but since I need this in a number, what I will do is I will type text style, if I can remember, and it was called number text. So it's not text style, text type. Let me double check. It's really easy to find. If you click on here, value on change, now you see what are the supported keys from here. So we have text style, label, placeholder, trailing icon is an error, keyboard action, modifiers, enable read-only, support in text. There is something to show under. Read-only. I'm not sure. Can't remember the exact implementation. For now, we'll just go with 0. Okay. The text, whenever the value changes, we are storing it in this text section, and we have the label called just simply saying label. But if you want to reuse, what we can do is we can pass a variable in here. Let's say label, and I will say it's going to be a string. Sorry, string. Okay, there's going to be a label. Rather than saying label, I will pass that label, and in here I have to pass a label. Let's say number 1. Okay, I'll have another one which says number 2, and redeploy it again. Okay, we have number 1 and number 2. These are supposed to be numbers only. Let me quick check how we can get that one as well. I think it was here. It was number. Saw it in here. X was it? It's really hard to find like that. The documentation is also huge. Text field. Okay. We have text field color, text field value change, single line, keyboard actions, modifiers, label, trailing icon. Okay, there. Now value password. Where's the type? Keyboard type. Okay, I think keyboard option is the one that we are looking on. You go in there. In here, the keyboard options. Keyboard option would be number. Okay. Let me check. Yeah, there you go. So we know we can we can change the type in here. So it's the keyboard option, and the keyboard type will be a number. That means it's only accepting numbers at this point. So it is not accepting anything else. So if I put 0, it will accept 0. But if I don't need a default value, you can just simply say empty value. So let me run it again. Yeah, number 1, there you go. You can type 2 numbers. Now what we have to do is we have to get those 2 numbers, and when you click on this, it should at least do the addition. Let's do that. So we have a text field which shows 2 inputs, and we have a button. We have this, let's say, rather than click this, we will say add. Okay, you guys can see that it is lively updating in here. That's easy. And now what we have to do is we need to get the values out of these 2 text fields. Okay, these are like outline number text fields. So we need to take the text which is in here out of that component into our main class. So whatever the number that we are putting in here should be here, should be extracted. Whatever the number that we are putting in here, it should be another number, and we need to get those 2 numbers and work with that. Let's see how we can get that out. All right, so we have this text value which holds the values within in here. So let me try to access. Yeah, so there are a couple of ways that we can do. We can either listen to these text changes by providing this text value within the application itself, or we can take the values from the outside. So my preference would be to have this variable within our application. Let's see how we can do that. Let's say number 1 in here, and I will pass that number 1 to application, but right now it is not accepting anything. So what I will do is I'll simply remove this and say this is the text. So the type of text in here in this context is going to be a mutable state. The type of number 1 is text field value. Text field value. Okay. Value should be in here. Okay. It is should be a var. Var. Yes, should be var. Text field. I'm sorry. Let me minimize. Okay, I think I am doing a mistake in here. Right, I can get the text from here. Okay, I can't reassign this. Let me do a check on that. So mutable state, let's see an example which we can get more insight. So here it is showing value change, password. It's good, but not the one. Yes. text field, get value. Now function. Keyboard option, okay, keyboard types. So I can't access the state. That is weird. Number one. Outline, sorry. Outline text field, get value. Okay, let's see, value change. Let's go to an example. Let me change. Okay, they all are stating and getting value. Okay. Let me double check another example. So I'm not doing anything wrong. Basic value. Text field, all the text fields are remembering the value in here. Okay, let's do that for now. I know it's not a good practice. Definitely, I should be able to. Number one, okay, let's try it one more time. If it did not work, we will add parameter effect number one. Should be this, try this. Wow. Value cannot be reassigned. Let me check. Lin, why this game? Functional parameters. Okay. Function parameter is basically order val function. So as it will be always referring to original object person. If you need to modify, you have to make the local copy. Now, copy is not gonna work for me. I can do a copy, but it will not be the same. Var text equal text. Then it would work. I'm not sure. Let's see when I click on the buttons. Let me try it again. Number one, text. Let me run it again. Then I'll try to explain. I need the logcat in here. clear out. Number 2. Yeah, it does not show the text. Right. Okay. Yeah, it's not even populating. That is the wrongdoing that I'm doing in here. The text, I don't think it is locally updating. Let me double check. Yeah, it's not working. So I'll do the old-fashioned way rather than having this in 2 lines. But I have to get back to you guys. Sorry about that. I will have something like this. I will have the 2 numbers in here, and I will have 2 variables to hold that, number 1 and number 2. And the value is number 1 for this one and number 1 for this as well. So we have outline text field. What is this show? Okay, we need to say the opt-out section in here, and number 2 as the value number 2 in here. So the labels, rather than saying, I would say number 1. In here, we'll say number 2. So apparently what the wrong thing that I did was the text that we are supposed to get, it is held in this number variable, and the number 2 is held in this variable, but I could not pass the value. I will double check on the on a better way that we can do this. For now, just remember the outline text field that we have, it has the number 1, and whenever the value is changing, we are assigning the value to the number 1 section in here, as we mentioned, and the text and the keyboard option, those are like pretty much standard. We are not allowing anything other than numbers, and the label is going to show number 1. Same goes to the number 2, and it's number 2 and value changes and so on and so forth. So when I click on it, I should get the number 1 text and number 2 text. It should print out whatever the number that I'm holding. So let me run it again. I have the logcat open in here. I'll say 2, and the next one is 6. Let's hit that add. Yes, you can see the 2 and 6 are printed out. You clicked. This one also showing up. Okay. So now what we will do is we will show the result in here. So basically, what we can do is get those 2 numbers, assign it to a variable, and show it there. So I will have a text saying total is, and whatever things that we like to say. I will have some modifier. I have padding of, let's say, 5, at least 8, 10 dBs. Sorry, we have to specify where all, let's say 10. Points. What is the value? Apply all diagonals. For now, I will not have one. So total is, I'm gonna have the total in here, and whatever the total number is gonna be, and I will define a variable total here, and initially it will be 0, but when I click on it, it should be total. Okay, when I click on it, this total, total should be number one dot text to integer plus number two text to integer, and the total would be that value. Okay, so basically I have introduced a field called total. Okay, and when I click on it, what it simply does is making that two numbers to one, and it is showing in here. So in template driven, that is much more easy. Now if I run it again, sorry, if I run it again, I don't need this one, 2, and the next one is like 3, and if I hit add, you guys can see that, okay, 2 plus 3 add, it does not update anything. So let's see why. So let's see first whether the logcat is showing this. So let me undo this. To wing total is $total. Let me run it again. Make sure the logcat is opened up. I would say 2, and let's say 3, and hit add. Yes, you can see that the number, the total is showing up, the evaluation, the arithmetic operation. It works perfectly, but what happened is it is not showing in here. Okay, so why is that? What's the problem? The text in here, it is also showing in here, but even though we have the total in here, it is not showing. So why is this? What is the error that we are seeing in here? And that this will resolve actually the why this thing is also worked it. So the thing is, when we define a variable like this in our compose scope, what happens is this is what we call something called immutable. Okay, immutable in the sense we no longer want this to be changed. So anyhow, even though we assign it in here, the total and everything we assign it in here, it does not get reflected in this UI lifecycle. Okay, so unless we do something change, yes, you can see that the update happened right now. So for example, oops, good point, an exception. Okay, let me do this one more time so you guys can get an idea. So I'll put 5, and for the second number I would say 6, and if I add it, it should show 11, right? It should show 11 in here, but it is not showing. But look closely, right after I change 5 to, let's say, I don't know, 1, you guys can see it's saying 11. That is not the I did not hit add button, but it is the old value, the 5 plus 1, sorry, 5 plus 6 result was 11. It is showing here. So unless we change something in here, unless the state is changed, this is not getting updated. The UI not is getting updated. This is the expected behavior. So if you guys are coming from if you guys have done some what do you call Flutter programming, this is also not gonna happen. We have to say, okay, this is gonna be updating, so you have to make sure if this value changes, UI should be rendered out. Okay, that part is handled by something called this handled by this mutable states. Okay, other if we don't provide a mutable state, when we are changing this value, it would not get reflected on the UI itself. Okay, it is showing in the console. The value is added, the addition happens, but it is not getting rendered unless the UI get changed again. So in here now 6 plus 1 plus 6 is 7. Even though I click the add button, it does not show anything. But as soon as I change number 2, you can see 6 plus 1, 7, result is coming. And it is due to we did some change in here. We just simply remove the value. So while when the value is removed, the UI get updated. At that time, the total was the calculated one that we had in our button. That's why it is showing there. Okay, one good point that you need to know, even though you manipulate this value, it won't get reflected in here unless you do a UI change. Oh, you have to specifically say now render this render with these new values. Since the add button does not inform us to render anything, it's not getting reflected. So let's see how we can fix this. So we can say Android compose not updating the text. Okay, compose text will not update it when it typed in. So this is the same scenario that we are seeing in here. Sorry. So the change in here, it is saying they use the change, and we should recompose state. This is the one we want to. Yep. DPS value change. So state. We should use something called the mutable state. Otherwise, as I mentioned earlier, when the value get changed, it's not gonna get reflected on our end. Okay, so we have to create a mutable state. Otherwise, this will not work. Let's see how we can fix it in the code level. State hoisting. And yes, remember by. So we have to say total by rememberable. We can say remember is one of the compose methods, or we can use since we are using material, we can use remember. What we'll do is var by remember, and as you can see, remember the mutable state. I think I have to import remember. Okay, and the initial one is mutable state of, and the value, the default value that we're gonna be default value that we are interested in. Okay, now you guys can see that the remember keyword, rather than we are saying, okay, this is the zeros value, now we are saying, okay, this is going to be a mutable one. Let's see this works. Okay, number is 4, total number is say 5, and hit add. Now you guys can see as soon as I hit the add button, 4 plus 5, 9 is displayed. So let me go and change the number to let's say 10. 10 plus 14, if I hit add right now, it's going to show 14. So remember, we have to make sure if state is updating somewhere in the application like this, when we click on the button, we're going to be changing this. Then what should happen? The remember section, the value should be have a remember value. Otherwise, what will happen? If the UI is updated, this won't get updated as we expected. Okay, and the mutable state of is something to indicate this is going to be something be changing, and the default and the initial value should be 0. Okay, so this is something called something what we call state. This is fairly visible in Flutter, but if you take what do you call something like Swift UI, they have something similar. We call those things as observables, but it's much more less complicated than this. It's not complicated. It's easy to handle, but as you guys can see, it is not a huge deal. As long as you want to render the values, you have to make it remember and give a mutable state. Otherwise, it is immutable. Okay, so read about mutable state, immutable state. Think this section will give you a good idea on that. Let me put it in the chat itself so you guys can refer it later. Okay, think about the state management. Okay, this is like a very simple scenario. We will go into much deeper state management later on. Okay, for now, remember, as long as you do changes in here, it should happen something like this. Okay, so back to the original question, we deviated a lot. Now, if you guys can see that the number calculation that we are doing, it's in here. That is totally doing by getting these two numbers and do an addition. Okay, so let's say we want to make sure that this section, the value that we are seeing in here, this section is doing its job as it's expected. Okay, so we can't control these things. They are not doing any logical operations. These are not doing any logical operation unless they are there to capture the numbers. But this in here, we do a business logic, something that we hope that we execute and take the value. So in a scenario where we are writing test cases, this is a testable point. Okay, these all of these things are related to the maintaining the state of the application, showing us an outline text field, showing us a button, everything that is UI related. But this section, it's a business logic. So what we can do is we will create a logical class to handle these things. So in here, there is something like called UI themes. So I will create another package in here that's to have all the logics in here. Driver, I will say services. Okay, services. Under this, I will create a new Kotlin file, Kotlin class. I will call this calculate. Okay, I'll have a Kotlin class called calculate, and I will have a function called add. Okay, by adding, I was expecting number 1. It's going to be a number, and I will expecting number 2. It's also going to be a number. Okay, so returning, it's going to be a simple one. Okay, number 1 plus number 2, right? Pretty much easy, right? So we are doing a simple operation in here, but I think for Kotlin, rather than using number 1 and number 2, we can just say plus in here. Plus is the number. Oh, sorry, rather than saying a number, I would make it integer. So it's easy. Plus number 2, okay. And the return would be an integer 2. Return is an int. So we did the same thing in here. So rather than having the logic in here, this is a very if I say this is very primitive one, we will see how we can see as a developer, as a tester, how we should do these things in a more logical way. Of course, this is great. Okay, at least something we have in here. So I will go with calculator in here. I will create an instance var calculate. It's an instance of calculate. Okay, we will import. Sorry, what is the import button in here? Option calculate. I'll say calculate. Okay, so every time that I want to calculate something, what I simply do is I call total equal calculate dot add. So I'll get number 1 integer and number 2 integer as a parameter. Okay, this should work as expected. Let me run it again and make sure that by introducing it to a new class, it is not breaking anything. Let me say 5 and let me say 6 and total is 0. Cool. The expected result still works. Now, you guys can see that we separated our UI from the logic itself by moving this calculator method into a you can use a val typo. Okay, that's not the case. So we have moved our logical class into a separate section. Okay, that's good. Now we will go and say, right, this is the add function that we are working with, and what should we do regarding this? If somebody give different inputs, what should happen? Okay, for example, let's do something crazy. Let me run it again. Okay, and what we can do is for number 0 I don't have anything, but for number 2 I will have 4 and I will add the app crash. Okay, so those kind of scenarios can happen. Okay, in any circumstance, those things can happen. So we should be able to handle those things perfectly without crashing our application. The best way that we can do is writing a test and make sure these things are not breaking. Okay, so let's go back to the original question. Let me write a unit test for this calculate. Okay, let's go to the add method and I go to the unit test. So rather than saying example unit test, I will create a new Kotlin class with the name calculate test. Remember the naming, it should at least have test at the end. Okay, calculate the test, and I will have a function called normally there is a convention that when we are running test case, we are giving a name. We normally say it should. Okay, it should. That is like a convention that most of the developers, most of the testers use. It's given an idea. Okay, what should happen? It should add 2 plus 2 and 2 and return 4. Okay, so this is the expected test case right now. You guys can see it is like very lengthy name. That is okay. We have to have the test annotation from JUnit, otherwise it won't work. Now we need to assert the calculate method. So what we can do is we can say we need to create a value from the calculate, and it's going to be calculate from the services. Okay, we have created that, and I can say calculate add to the number. Second one should be 2, and I will call these variable result. Okay, and I will say assert equal for equal result. So assert equal, I need to import equal. Did I spell it? Equal, sorry, assert equals 4. So what I'm saying is, let me format this code. Refactor. Is that format code? Oops. Can't remember. That's a shortcut. Let me check. Android Studio. Format code. Control Shift E, full Mac. Option Command L, sorry. Option Command L. Okay, there you go. So in here, what we do is really simple. We create a calculator class which holds this logic. Okay, that is simple. And under the calculate test, we should say calculate, and we say add and number 2 and number 2 as the inputs, and the assert function, which should say assert equals, rather than importing like that. Let me import assert equal. Import everything from assert. Okay, even assert equal, that's fine. So I am asserting assert and equaling expected to be 4, the result should be 4. So if my logic has not changed anything, okay, that is to be working fine. And for some reason, let's assume that build the Gradle, calculate, and for some reason, let's say the number okay. So we change the logic, or somebody from the some intern or someone from the other department came, and they have changed the logic for some reason. This should be not add but multiple minus. Okay, so some reason they accidentally changed that. Now all the test cases that those things cannot be false. Now if you try to run this again, then the test case is failing. Expected was 4, but it was 0. Then we can say, okay, the tests are failing. There should be something changed, something stupid happen. So most of the time when we go and find, okay, this is the reason behind that, so we need to make it correct. Otherwise, the change that we did, we need to revert that. Okay, that kind of assure we will be getting while we are running the unit test. Okay, otherwise what will happen, some random person then will break this, and at the middle of the night you get a message saying, okay, this is no longer working, the addition function is not working, what should we do? So avoid that kind of situations by simply writing a unit test for this. As I mentioned earlier, this is not the only case that we should run. Okay, try negative numbers. It should add -2, and so okay, you can't say minus in here. -2 and 2 to return 0. Okay, we should write -2 by 2. The expected results is going to be 0. I know sometimes you might say, okay, these are like very stupid things to do, but remember, more test cases you have, elite test cases, this will ensure, okay, whatever the number that we are putting, it will get the expected result. Okay, so what should happen? What should happen for the plus operation is under this additional add method. We can work on that, but there are some cases where we were from the UI perspective, we were failed to do. Okay, for example, let me run the application once again. The special scenario, if I, without having any numbers, if I hit add, what should happen? Okay, it's crashed. The app getting simply crashed. That is because the numbers that we are providing in the UI itself, they are trying to convert and they are failing, so it is not working. So this, but at least somebody is coming for the business logic and trying to change something in here. It won't work. Okay, and for some reason we can have custom logics in here that would make more sense, but right now it is not something within this add method, but you guys can see that as I mentioned earlier, the add method itself, it is containing 3 lines, but the test cases, it is taking more. Okay, so if you are a good programmer, simple 3 lines of code will have a lot of numbers. Okay, a lot of test cases. So the code is very simple, but the expected values is much more than that. Okay. All right. So this is a simple test case. Okay, how to write a simple test case. So my next your assignment or what you should guys try it out is a very simple one. It should say rather than number 1, enter your name, and it should say enter your age. Okay, 2 fields. First one for name, second one for age. And when you click add, okay, when you click add, it should say hello, whatever your name, and you are X amount of age, years old. Okay, so that is the message that we want to show. Hello, whatever your name, and you are this amount of years old. Okay, I know this is really it's like really simple thing that you can do, but I need to write unit tests from each of these cases. Okay, I need to have look. I mean, how do you understand unit testing? How good you can have you sorry, how much you are paying attention, where to write a unit test, and how you gonna test it out. Okay, it's a simple thing. Just you should have tested out the UI itself. Okay, you need to test it out, the logic behind it. The logic is really simple. You should say hello, whatever your name, and for example, I will give you something like this. Hello. In here should be my name, and you are, let's say again, I will put total in here for just for years old. Years old. Okay, that's the simple thing that you guys need to test. Okay, so I need your guys testing capabilities to check these things. All right, cool. Anything else, guys, that we missed? I have a couple of things to get back to you, how we can isolate these and get this number field as well as in here, rather than depending on the column itself. That is from my side. So you guys have this section to be compiled and write a simple unit test on that. That's up to you guys to do. From my end, is there anything that we need to discuss? Okay. Let me stop sharing. And let me stop recording.